Well, welcome to AM Talk. We've got two big issues that we're going to be discussing today, but let's start with Addo, our series that we started yesterday. It's a community in the Central Tongue constituency of the Volta region dealing with a worrying reality. Their only source of water, a dirty pool, is laced with algae and leeches. The story of Tove was the highlight of the first episode in our series, Addo, which tracks government's promises and the situation on the ground. The people say the Addo government promised to ensure safe water in every community within its first 2 years in office, but their situation is yet to change. Jojo Kobna has the rest of the story.
In the first 2 years of an MPP administration, under this Infrastructure for Poverty Eradication program, where every constituency will get $1 million every for rural and deprived communities, under this program, there should be no village or community in Ghana after the first 2 years that would have a water problem or a toilet problem. There should be no village or community. Once we implement this, the first 2 years, we will make sure you will not have a water problem or a toilet problem.
A promise from Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia when the New Patriotic Party launched this manifesto in 2016 at the La Trade Fair Center in Accra. It has been over 2 years since this assuring statement was made, and it still rings in the minds of the people.
Times are wasting and times are wasting and
Mafi Tove is a farming community of 600 people in the Central Tongue constituency of the Volta region. Residents do not enjoy basic access to potable water. Running water would be a luxury they can only afford to dream, and hope becomes a reality. Women and girls journey to the main source of water in the community, a pond. The pond is nestled in between trees. It is deep brown and dirty, with remnants of fallen leaves and other black substances floating on the surface. Feet wade in water. In a matter of seconds, receptacles are filled up. A herd of cattle make their way to drink the same source of water. The water settles in a white packet, and finally, its true color emerges. The water is used for washing, cooking, and drinking. Perfect Amade, a senior high school student, plans of abandoning her village in the future, mainly because of the poor quality of water. After getting used to potable water from secondary school, using the brownish liquid is difficult.
We are not having potable water, so that's what I don't like about the village. The water is not good for our health, and when we are using it, because of that, when we come back from school, We can't wear white clothes.
She won't be the first person to abandon the community. Many others have fled to urban areas for supposed better life.
This village consists of a population of about 1,500, but as I'm speaking now, we can only get about 500 to 600 people living in the community because of the nature of this thing. Most youth have fled the town to other places for greener pastures.
Perfect is conscious about the promise to ensure every community and village gets water 2 years of the MPP administration.
Our Excellency Nana Akufo-Addo, please, you have seen the water we are taking here. As a normal human being, this water is not good for our health. So you need to do something about it for us.
I think they can give this water to even their dogs to drink because of the nature of the water. If they come, we feed them water, they don't drink it. They tell us it's okay. They will leave. Upon several efforts to have this pipe brought to this village, all these attempts proved futile.
Dukrola Nana Akufo-Addo, enye himle mi odukom nyebi, eshinwe, eshimele mi egbo, enabi mi le shifukpen, ple suku, mele duko ha mene mi viu ha le du difeyi, enabi ne de viu yivu kaka ko ova jedo. Wanye fukpekpe ne miano, mi ojila miano fukpe, weka de viu va se. Eta toko didi mi azobe, mali amowo, ka mi ava ikwoshi. Enye tetere jinemi. Tamila kuku demna dukla Nana Akufo-Addo benena le shinya nava jemi odukom nmadimila chogbema.
They are not the only community with a terrible water situation. In fact, the Assemblyman for Mafi Addo electoral area has identified about 14 communities lacking potable water. The second out of the 14 communities is Mafi Tove Chikope. Greenish, slimy algae bloom on the surface of the water. The impact of algae on drinking water is complex, as some form of algae have the ability to affect water quality for humans and animal consumption, producing toxins that can have unpleasant and even serious health effects. After laboring to fetch and carry water over long distances, residents find a leach in the water. Sadness is etched in their faces. They have had to endure leeches for so many years. The rainy season will help them harvest some water, but when the dry season emerges, they'll go back to their default drinking water or walk some kilometers for this basic commodity.
As we are suffering from this particular water, like germs and others, we went there and bought water from Tove as a new pipe water. Sometimes we use the dirty one to wash our things because expenses for buying waters are very high.
Le miaƒe esikuku le etama, avuto no etama. Ta ne gele me na menya la Addo. Kene do la Addo le menyanyago. La va for me. Kene amele kpe na lo nto va kpe ha. Kene efue. Place sesen la ela tovu. Ya. Ga kene nyebe me kwasi fue. Echo donti, esi. Etroleji la elage ko ela torokwe abiale no o khacha gapon neniemi won mata mi lo kukudam ne bena akpele mi ntinge.
During their campaigning, they promised the whole Ghana that each community will get access to a good drinking water. But in their office of 2 years now, in our area, we haven't experienced anything in that form. If really their campaigning messages are working, then they should come to our aid for us to get a potable water.
The water makes them sick. The in charge of Addo Chips compound, Gladys Womeno, says apart from malaria and respiratory tract infections, diarrhea is the third most common disease recorded in her facility.
They pass blood too. Some mucus mixed with blood. And there's some water too with blood. But
what does that mean?
that means they have infection, like bacterial infection. When they come with mucus too, we give them metronidazole, ORS. So when they come with the diarrhea, we give them zinc tab and the ORS. Now we advise them on personal hygiene.
How can this be solved?
If we have potable water, that one can stop diarrhea.
The district chief executive of Central Tongue, Thomas Moore, says government will soon provide them potable water.
They will be getting potable water very soon. Those areas, we did our survey and realized underground water will not be good. Central Tongue is not like other districts or regions where you can drill borehole and heat water. We have surface water, but don't have good underground water. It could either be salty or some mineral content. So we have, at the back of these assemblies, there's a big treatment plant there that was financed by an Austria facility. And then it was a 10-key project. So we extended water to Addo, which is one of the biggest communities on that line. So within that enclave, there are about 15 communities that will be connecting water to. I can tell you for sure we have 3 now, because my visit to these 3 communities, I saw them using boreholes. And
okay, so that's our first episode of Dear Nanado, and the whole idea is to bring the microphone closer to you, the people, well, we the people, if you like. So if there are any promises that you're tracking, we want to hear, and that's what the series is about. Let me introduce my guest in the studio. They'll have their say on this, and then we'll move to the issue of the PDS. So Andrew Kofi Japamesa is MP for 2nd D in the Western region. He sits on the Communications Committee and the Privileges Committee of Parliament. And Hassan Suhini is the Member of Parliament for Tamale North in the Northern region. He also sits on the Lands and Forestry Committee and the Appointments Committee of Parliament. Good morning to you, gentlemen. Thank you for being here.
Always a pleasure.
Okay, so this, I decided to play Dear Nanado and get a reaction from you, and then we'll move to the developing story of the PDS. So who would go first? Let me go to you, Alaji.
Well, good morning once again to you. Good morning to our viewers, and let me also say good morning to the very good people of the Tamale North constituency. I think this is a very good project that you have started. It is important not only for the people who will get the opportunity to remind the president and his vice president of the promises that they made before, securing their mandate, but it's also good for even the government. I mean, we have a proverb in Dagbani that says that the one who is making the path does not know that it is crooked at the back. It is usually those who are watching from the back who can, prompt whoever is making the path. But I think that it's going to be a very difficult task for this government, because clearly I have consistently said that they came into power through dishonesty, and not just, mild ones, but very legendary, deceptive assurances and promises. One of such is what you just aired, which, was said forcefully by the sitting vice president today, that in about 2 years, no village in this country was going to have to suffer any water problem. And that is just one of the many legendary, deceptive, campaign messages that the NPP used in 2016 to secure the mandate. And the difficult thing with riding a horse, riding a lion for a hunt is that you are unable to get off the back of the lion. So, because if you do, you may just end up in the tummy of the lion. That is to say, if you start with a lie, like they did, you are going to have to tell several other lies to cover the first lie that you told. For example, I'm sure we will have the opportunity to discuss the free SHS. First of all, what was promised was that all students in secondary school, the campaign promise was refined whilst in office to first-year students, only first-year students, forgetting that parents of students who were in second year and third year heard them say that all students were going to benefit, and perhaps may have voted because they were hoping that the awards will enjoy the free
It's interesting
education.
you go back to the free SHS
I'm
issue,
sure we'll discuss
but
that
let's reserve
yes,
that.
I'm just talking about the deception. I'm giving an example. But then again...
but how does it become deception, if you like? We heard from the MCE who's outlining the plans that they have. So how does it become? Because all you political parties make promises. You have a vision before you come into power.
Well, it becomes dishonest when you make a pledge that in 2 years you will do something, and then after 2 years you give excuses and talk of plans. That's simply dishonest. And I think you will agree with me. It's dishonest.
Oh, that's your opinion. Mr. Mensah, what's your take on this?
Good morning. Good morning to my very honest friend, Alasan Sunyini, our cherished viewers this morning, particularly those in my constituency second D. I'm actually getting ready to move down today to commence my community engagements following our long recess. You see, it's unfortunate how we tag our political opponents as being dishonest. Coming to power based on deception. When clearly you just left office 2.5 years ago. And I've thrown a challenge at them to tell the good people of this country whether they even attained 30% of their campaign promises from 2007, 2008, when they were in opposition, to 2016.
Isn't that why perhaps reason they are in opposition today?
That's why I said that campaign promises are a vision of a political party. You live in the country, you observe the needs and wants of the people, and you commit that when given the opportunity, you work to attain those objectives. Several factors may inform your ability or inability to achieve all of them. And so, if you don't achieve some of your campaign promises, I'm not going to tag you as dishonest. Because it's a commitment that you work assiduously to achieve over the tenure that you are in office.
But that's a failure right there.
Oh, well, you may say that you have not achieved all of it, and so you have failed. Or that, well, the level of achievement of the promises that you made is sufficient to satisfy me that you've done well. Now, let's get back to the commitment that His Excellency the Vice President made. If you listen to the tape carefully, he said that within 2 years of the Akufo-Addo administration, with the IPEP.
So there's a condition.
So, absolutely. He tagged it with the implementation of a particular program.
So what has happened to the particular program?
Infrastructure for Poverty Eradication Program. Marabi, we live here. Government has been candid with the people of Ghana that, look, we made commitments to start IPEP from year one. However, we needed to put in the institutional framework to ensure that the vehicle that we're going to use to roll out, which is development authorities, were put in place. In the first year, we couldn't conclude it. And so we set up a team that went round to evaluate needs of constituencies and deployed some funds, not up to the 1 million. Fact. Second year, we did the same, but thankfully, we concluded the institutional framework. Year 3, and of course, disbursed funds as we are done in year 1. There are projects in my constituency not valued up to $1 million. Fact. But some projects have been done. Now, this year, 2019, all the $1 million have been released.
This is August, too.
Yes, I don't have a problem. Okay, I have submitted, together with the District Assembly, projects that we intend to do in our constituency that have been costed through the Assembly's process and submitted to the District Assembly, Development Authority. And they're going to roll it out. And so to sit here, listening to the Vice President, English that he spoke, and to say that he is being dishonest, it's unfortunate.
Can we can go back to the Vice President's audio, and when you have it ready, please play it for us.
You understand? He was categorical that, because look, and I feel very sad watching this tape, that Ghanaians, 62 years after independence, we still have communities that drink this kind of water. I'm sad. Okay, I've listened to excerpts of your documentary on radio, but this pictorial thing that you showed this morning is sad. But we have a political party, and this is from the Volta region, that deem the Volta region as their World Bank. And you sit here, you're not even shy that your government has not been able to provide decent potable water for the people of the Volta region.
Are you given the responsibility?
I'm not,
because they didn't make this specific promise, did they?
I don't have a problem. And I said to you that the commitment that the Vice President made is intact. And indeed, the District Chief Executive has confirmed, okay, that plans are far advanced to ensure that these people are provided with water. And I will urge that it be done expeditiously, not only for this community, but for the various other communities that are saddled with this problem, so that at least they can have some decent water.
Yeah, but I don't see how you join the NDC in this.
Of course, he is sitting here telling me that we deceived the people of Ghana into coming to office. Correct? Did he limit it to the provision of the water? And I'm saying that yes, we made commitments and we are bent on meeting the people of Ghana with the commitments that we made.
I want us to take a listen
it's not an event. Yes, please,
to the Vice President again, and I'll give you the opportunity to react, Mr. Suhuyini. Here we go.
First 2 years of an MPP administration under this Infrastructure for Poverty Eradication program, where every constituency will get $1 million every for rural and deprived communities. Under this program, there should be no village or community in Ghana after the first 2 years that would have a water problem or a toilet problem. There should be no village or community. Once we implement this, the first 2 years, we will make sure you will not have a water problem or a toilet problem.
Okay, so we had the Vice President.
So you heard him quite clearly.
Yeah, but how would we know that IPEP, everything will have to be in place before?
I don't have a problem.
Mr. Sine, let me give you the opportunity.
I'm saying that.
Finish 30 seconds.
I'm saying that we have been candid enough to admit that the IPEP rollout did not begin in year 1.
Okay, Mr. Sine.
Yes.
It's a matter of fact.
You see, it is important that in these discussions, we try as much as possible to be fair to the facts and be very honest. Because you see, the fact that we have the opportunity to be members of parliament, or we have the opportunity to sit in the studio, does not make us the most intelligent people. It does not make us, know better than those who are listening to us. They sometimes leave these conditions and they know better. So when you sit here and then you suggest to them that the Vice President did not categorically say what they have all heard him say.
Is that what I said?
It is insulting.
Is that what I said?
I thought he was highlighting on the condition that was given in that speech.
There's no condition. There's no condition. Listen to it. He said,
well, but the water was supposed to be provided under a certain project.
That is not a condition. That is a categorical statement that when we come, we will use this vehicle in the first 2 years to deliver. It's not a condition.
And I'm saying that the vehicle was not ready in the first year.
Why?
In the second year. Now it's ready.
Who was supposed to make
so
that?
So give
vehicle?
us 2 years on the IPP. You see what will be done.
Let's have a decent discussion so that the people can benefit. Please. I'm saying it was categorical. You had thought through the vehicle that you were going to use to deliver it in the first 2 years and made the promise. Categorical. So you don't come and give me excuses that you could not put that vehicle in place in the first year when nobody stopped you. Nobody. No natural, occurrence made it impossible for you to set up that vehicle. It simply amounts to dishonesty.
So, but are you then saying that it is impossible that something would come up so that vehicle would not be ready?
I am saying if it had been a natural cause, if that vehicle could not be set up because of some natural causes, then it will be reasonable. But you see, you thought about the vehicle, you announced the vehicle you were going to use to do it in the first 2 years, and you knew of all the conditions that you needed to meet to get the vehicle on the line. So if you come to power and you fail to use that vehicle in the first 2 years to do it, it amounts to dishonesty, even more so when you can't admit that you got it wrong. But you rather even try to make the people look stupid by suggesting that they didn't understand you. It is insulting.
But he also makes a point that we all know that the Volta region, for instance, is the NDC's.
I'm getting there. Please, if you don't interrupt my
Please
thoughts
go ahead.
of change. You see, again, that is why I'm saying that it's important that in these discussions, we as much as possible strive to be honest and fair to the facts. The NDC, indeed, have always, at every point in time that we have been in government or in opposition, tried to make promises that we know are reasonable and achievable.
Including 200 schools.
And so we know that it will not take 8 years, or it will not take 4 years to ensure that all villages in Ghana, all villages, because you see, every month or every year, even new villages spring up. So we are reasonable and honest enough to tell the people that we know there is a problem of water. And this is our plan that we are rolling out, and systematically we will address that problem.
So you're saying that unlike the NPP,
we will not lie to the people.
You don't make open promises,
no,
is that
we
it?
do. No, we do. We make promises that are achievable, promises that are attainable, promises that are measurable. And that is why, for example, when he says that he challenges the NDC to show that we were able to achieve more than 30% of our promises that we made from 2007. I am not going to respond, and I don't expect any NDC person to.
Why would you?
Please. I'm going to refer him to what Imani said about the promises the NDC made. Imani Ghana, everybody knows, has not been in bed with the NDC before, is not friendly to the NDC. But Imani Ghana, clearly stated in 2014, that the NDC had achieved 52%.
Thank you very much.
In 2014. In 2014, when we're still left with 2 years to go, they stated clearly that the NDC had achieved 52% of its campaign promises.
So by the end of the tenure?
So that's what I'm saying. I don't even want him to doubt. I'm telling him that his challenge is a non-starter.
But you've given us half tenure accounts.
Mama V, I'm saying he threw a challenge. So he, again, has not been honest. Because if he says we couldn't achieve 30%, and we as NDC, if we want to even respond to him, you will say we are massaging the figures. But I'm telling him that in the first 2 years, Imani Ghana, that is not friends with the NDC, said we had made 52%. So that clearly is dishonest, is a dishonest challenge that he's throwing. So I am saying that for us in the NDC, as much as possible, and that is why when I veered into the SHS, you had to bring me back. We as much as possible. And then again, he talks about the schools that we said we were going to construct. You see, the people again are intelligent. So when you make a promise that is realistic, and then you make efforts, and they see your efforts, they will appreciate those efforts.
Okay.
So for example, in the construction of the schools, who in Ghana doesn't know that the target of 200, there was actually visible, evidence of work done to ensure that we got that.
But it wasn't completed 200.
Sorry.
I want us to finish 50, this and then make time for that.
50, and there were more, at different levels of completion. That is the honest approach that I'm talking about. Okay. So that is where I agree with him when he says that the people, when you make the efforts, he says that, look, they are making the efforts. But I'm saying when you make an unrealistic promise based on dishonesty, just because you want power at all costs, there is no gain in even pointing to an honest approach to resolve it.
Just 30 seconds for you to address the issue of you saw this water problem, obviously, but you didn't solve it.
You see, the question is, what were we doing to solve water problems in Ghana?
Okay, please end
it. You see, we are talking of this community.
No.
Stick to it.
Yes, we'll stick to it. You see, you made a categorical promise that you were going to ensure that no village had water problems.
Okay, so you didn't make that promise.
The promise the NDC made was to ensure that we improve water delivery in this country. And we did that by increasing water coverage. In fact, the rural water, I don't have the figure. I wish I did.
So let's just leave it here.
Water coverage in this country unprecedentedly.
Okay, thank you very much.
Let me of the NDC.
Kindly wrap up. It has to be very brief for me so we can move on.
The community water sanitation, they have the records as to how much improvement we brought.
And I think that this will also help improve our analysis and our conversations in the coming days. So we will.
And how will the NDC government improve water delivery in this country?
This is another angle of that. We didn't intend for this to be political, by the way.
Exactly. I won't tag my very good friend Alassane dishonest. But you see, I have here in my hand Imani's course Mahama 52.9 on 2012 manifesto promises, 6th October 2016.
Published.
So it cannot be true that the assessment that you refer to was after your 2 years. This is 2016
Read
October.
The story. You are looking at when the story was
Chairman, please.
So where are you?
So you see, like I said, I believe.
You're disputing
that it was
what he had
a 2-year
put forward
assessment
before.
It was your entire 4 years that you did 52%. But you see, I didn't even limit myself to the 2012. It was deliberate. I deliberately went back to 2008 when they came into power.
Why?
Because you see, if you look at
for 4 years,
yes,
so why do you
I agree, but I'm talking about the 8 years that you stayed in office.
That's a dishonesty again. Why do you don't know
you
that
stayed in office for 8 years? And I'm saying that if you put the cumulative manifestos of your party together, you didn't do 30%, yet you turn around and say somebody lied this way to power. So when you were campaigning in 2007, with all the promises that you made, were you lying?
Okay.
I want us to draw, okay, is that let's move away from the name calling.
Okay, so let me help. And let me put this in the please land.
Please, you see, it's important for us to engage in civil discourse.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Civil.
But isn't that what we are doing right here?
But calling people dishonest.
Oh, if they are incompetent, they are incompetent. If they are dishonest, they are dishonest.
Meet a certain timeline.
What's wrong
Check your manifesto.
Civility, really. Today, you know
what
civility.
Percent even let's just say that my 30% is wrong, and that we should work with Imani's 52%. Did you lie? Because you promised 100.
Mr. Mesa, please.
You did 52.
Mr. Mesa, please learn from me. Let's wrap up this way. Let's wrap up this way.
You see, it's important for us as political actors. I believe in the commitment that the MPP made in our manifesto. But I'm realistic to know that, look, it is not maybe possible to achieve all of it. But with respect to this particular water situation, I say that, yes, a certain program was intended to be used to roll it out.
Okay, but there were
delays.
With the
now that the full funding has been made available, I expect, and I urge the people who are responsible to move quickly and provide the water for these people who are obviously suffering from the kind of water that they're drinking.
So I wanted us to end this way. the fact that the people are watching and we're tracking the promises that were made, that will be helpful.
Absolutely. Not a problem at all. I think it's a useful program. I have my own reservations because, of course, like I said, I listened to excerpts of it and it was only the negative part that didn't hear the DCE clearly responding. But now I've seen that, yes, in a sense, it's fair, it's balanced. You get the view of government as well to explain to people what it is that the issues are and the assurances that are provided to ensure that the promises are going to be met.
Okay, Mr. Sweeney, please limit yourself to the question that I asked in terms of the usefulness of this program. Now that you know that the people will take the microphone to them so that we all track the promises that you make on the
I think
platform.
that is what I started with by commending you for, taking the microphones to the people. And I indicated clearly that it was not just for the good of the people to air their grievances, but it's also, even for the government itself to be prompted to do what it promised to do. So the relevance of this program cannot be overstated. I think that it is important that we keep governments on its toes every time so that they work for the good of the people. But again, my brother says 52%.
Okay.
52%. It's not our assessment.
That debate.
It is an
Are you
assessment.
relying on that document?
That debate
now you are running away from it.
That debate
you
will
are relying on
continue.
it.
Oh
Let's
my
move
God.
on. Let's move on.
Be logical.
Gentlemen,
Be
let's move on.
logical.
2% is what
Be
you did.
logical.
Did you lie?
Be
Let's move on to
logical.
PDS,
Mama
please.
B,
Let's
Mama
move on to
B, Mama B,
PDS.
but it
I
is
want to
important
make time for
no,
free SHS.
even if he doesn't understand me, but it's important that the viewers understand me. I'm
Okay.
saying
Very quickly.
I'm relying on it to the extent that Imani is not friendly to the NDC.
Okay,
But I'm
thank you very much.
I'm saying that
How
perhaps if we were
convenient.
going to do
So
the
why do you
same
rely on their
assessment,
data?
it may be more than 52
So do your
because we
assessment
said
and test.
30%.
Okay.
And I'm just telling you that even someone who is
said
not friendly
that
with us,
between
raise us
2008
52%.
All right, gentlemen.
So it's a shame.
Thank you. We have to close
8
this.
years.
Let's move on to other issues, and we're talking about
You call
PDS
people
because
deceptive.
the coalition of stakeholders on electricity contracts and arrangements,
Does it hurt?
they've added their voices to accusations of fraud against the Millennium Development Authority in the PDS ECG concession agreements. Gentlemen, are you with me?
We're with you.
We're
I'm
talking
sure we
PDS ECG. I don't know how much of what happened yesterday in terms of this coalition, the concerns that they had, how much of it that you followed. But there was a call for the MIDA boss to step aside because he had done such a poor job with this whole agreement. Before we move on, I mean, how far with the delegation that we sent to begin the investigation?
Well, my understanding is that the delegation has come.
They're back in Ghana.
Yes, that's my understanding. And I expect that they will be putting together what it is that they saw, together with other, processes that would relate to the inquiry. Because if my recollection is clear, the Minister of Information told us that government has set itself 1 month to conclude the inquiry relating to this PDS matter, which had led to a decision to suspend, to safeguard the assets.
Is there still a suspension? Because there was a statement jointly issued by PDS and ECG. They're working together.
Yes, working together because I understand that the practical situation that we're confronted with was that because the personnel and the assets of ECG had been transferred to PDS, there was going to be a lacuna if PDS was not engaged temporarily, if you like.
So, Mr. Mesa, can you bring, because you're also a lawyer,
yes,
can you bring that expertise to bear? So we're dealing with the possible fraud situation, and I know that you said on Newsfile.
I'm not
but
aware
I am
of what
no,
we are dealing
but
with.
I am quoting. I am relying on the minister, the sector minister. This is the natural resources minister. No, this is the energy minister, John Peter Amewu. Why would we call a company that we're investigating, who are possibly involved in some kind of fraud? If it is proven, why are we engaging them again if we've suspended them and we are saying we're investigating?
I have been lampooned for putting my very good friend John Peter on the board, with my past comments. So I would stay away from that. But you see, government has issued a statement through the information minister, and that's what I work with. Okay, to the effect that, you see, and it is not the case that PDS is being investigated. Nobody has said so. The information minister said that owing to some material breaches that had been identified, government has suspended the transaction and was conducting an inquiry to determine whether indeed some issue would require further action. In brief, that's what the minister said. Now, I'm saying that there are practical situations to deal with. ECG hasn't got personnel on the ground to take bills, read meters, attend to faults.
But they used to.
Yes, they used to. But the legal regime changed following the execution of the concession agreement.
So even when we have suspicions, we can't go back to what we used to have?
But that's why the investigation is ongoing. Until it is conclusive and definitive findings are made, how does anybody expect government to take action that potentially may bring some financial cost to the state?
Miss, I'll come back to you again.
Look, I've been following the conversation. And I asked myself, and the other day when I was on news, I said, look, it requires cool head, not the noise that some people.
Okay, but who started the noise? Who started the noise?
Nobody started the noise.
You made.
No, hold on.
Mr. Amewu made some kind of discoveries, didn't he?
You see, who is managing the transaction? Is it the energy minister?
You know that he's on the board.
I don't have a problem.
But he is very much.
Have you read the media statement?
I have.
But media is managing the transaction.
But if the minister.
No, hold on. That's why I said that I don't want to go into the issue of the fraud. And
okay.
So it will be useful for you to ask Mr. Amewu.
So can we go back to the earlier statements, Mr. Mesa? Can we go back to the very first statement announcing the suspension?
Yes.
You said
the words that were used was that material breaches had been identified.
Okay, because you asked the question of who started this noise.
Yes.
Yes. Didn't that statement set us all off?
No. You see, so are you saying that government should have shrouded this matter in secrecy?
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying
exactly
that
what you're saying.
Once it's become a public matter,
have you listened to the spin subsequently?
Is there a spin on this?
Including people who went 2.5 years ago to SEC in America that haven't still returned, writing petitions to the American embassy.
Okay.
You haven't seen it.
I was going to go there, but I wanted him to set that off. So, Mr. Sweeney, I'll come back to you, Mr. Mesa.
Please.
We've just begun. Mr. Sweeney, the minority has petitioned the U.S. Embassy, the U.S. ambassador to investigate this matter, but you know that we've dispatched a team. Government has set aside a 30-day, time frame within which they are hoping that the investigations would bring us some firm conclusions. Why do you want the U.S. in this matter?
I've heard that the team is back.
Yes,
I've heard
Mr.
they
Mesa.
have come to confirm some of the things that the minister.
Mr. Mesa didn't tell us that.
I've heard that.
Okay.
So I'm sure that in the coming days.
You heard that from within the team?
I think within the media. You know,
okay.
I'm sure that if you put your ears on the ground, you will also pick up those same
okay. I will begin
observations. Yes, but you know, my brother, and to some extent, even the president, reminds me of the saying that if you go through life seeing everything as a nail, you carry a hammer along. And so for them, anything that embarrasses them, the NDC is to be blamed. NDC is making the noise. It's as if every Ghanaian has all of a sudden become NDC. And so the call on us not to be spectators was just what it was, plagiarized. It was not from the heart. It was not meant. It was just read like many other beautiful speeches that the president has given. Nothing from the heart, nothing really, that
Why do you say that? Because if you're a citizen, you'll be critical?
If you say anything today that the NPP doesn't like, then you ought to be NDC. And that is the approach. So he says noise. Even when they say it, and then they later realize that the thing is not sweet, palatable to their ears, then they turn around and blame the NDC. Because in this PDS matter, like you correctly said, yes, the Herald newspaper, I've always commended them, began, drawing attention to how this deal, needed to be looked at. I recall again in Parliament as a minority group, we cautioned government. We raised some of these red flags, but because of the majority that they were given in the 2016 general elections, they have always told us we can have our say and they will have their way. And so they bulldozed their way through and passed the deal. So for us, it was vindication time when we heard the Minister of Energy, clearly point to fraud that had been identified in the whole transaction, resulting in the suspension of the deal. But very, characteristic of the NPP, you see the somersaulting that, we have been witnessing ever since the minister attempted that bold move to announce to Ghanaians that this, some fraud had been detected. That is why my brother today will tell you that his earlier comments on Newsfile, he doesn't want to go there. Because you see, the somersaulting, the infighting.
All I said was that the minister, as far as I'm concerned, had misspoke.
The inability to be consistent and to stay on message, just makes the whole issue murkier. But clearly, we have petitioned the United States of America.
What is it that you're hoping that they can do that we can do ourselves, or this team that is currently investigating can do?
First of all, there was a team that went to Dubai to investigate Ameri. You remember? Mm-hmm. What happened? Later, we heard of the amounts of monies that were blown on them. And then later, the renegotiation of Ameri and how a minister had to be sacked because, according to the president, just to save face, he was misled. I can,
So isn't that a piece of investigation that resulted in something?
No,
the sacking of the minister?
It didn't. Then I think you didn't follow it. You didn't get my sarcasm. The team went, did their investigation, came back with a report that said nothing was wrong with the deal, but raised questions about, the amount of money that was even spent on the team in the first place, in some cases supported by Ameri, that same institution that they were supposed to investigate. And later, the government decided to renegotiate on their own, even though there was nothing wrong with the first deal, but they thought they could get a better deal. And then in the process, rather brought an embarrassing deal to Parliament. So it was not the investigation that resulted in the minister being sacked.
Okay, so that's one.
And there are several. In fact, the CDD and other, CSOs have had cause to complain about some of the investigations that the president and his government have carried out into allegations of corruption. The Bost scandal, for example, was named as one of it, and how they think he is too eager to clear his appointees of any wrongdoing when issues come up. And I'd rather celebrate them and tell the nation how they are assets, that must be celebrated. So clearly nobody, it's not just the NDC, even the CSOs are not confident in the ability of this government to investigate some of these allegations of corruption.
So anytime allegations come up, we'll run to the US and ask them to investigate
us. This is peculiar. This is peculiar. And it is peculiar to the extent that the MCC, that's the Millennium Challenge Corporation, is a US agency. And the amount of money that is supposed to be used to retool and revamp ECG is money coming from the US taxpayer. It is not Ghana's money. It is money from the US taxpayer. And so that is why it is important that even as our government does, as it usually does, pretend to investigate, the people who are giving us the money must also have an interest in ensuring that, issues that we believe, as usual, will be buried and cleared by the clearing house will be brought to the fore, so that our country will be.
So what are the signals that you've picked up? Are they going to honor your requests?
Well, they gave us, the letter was hand delivered. It was not rejected. So that's a good sign that they recognize the importance of this matter and the need for them to look into it. We hope that they will do justice and serve their people, because you see, the money is for their taxpayers, and you know, by extension also help us to improve our systems here, because our government clearly cannot be trusted, especially when you look at the relationships, and the relationships that are involved in this whole deal can clearly be seen.
What specific relationships are you talking about?
We're talking about the friends, the relatives, and the proximity to power by all the players in this particular deal, and it is demonstrated.
PDS is made up of several organizations, right?
Yeah.
So how are they friends
but
and connected
you know the
to
promoters
power?
of the several companies.
No, I don't know them.
Well, then you haven't been following the discussion and the news very well.
I have.
If you have been following, you will know the people who are behind the companies that have come together to form the PDS, and their relationship and their proximity to power.
So those persons are known, but I don't know about the relationship to power.
Please. I think that then you are the only person in Ghana who doesn't know.
Am I?
Yeah.
Because I was hoping that you could connect a few for us so that we can all be on the same page.
You see, no, I'm saying that unless you are pretending not to know, anybody who has followed the discussion knows the relationship, unless you are pretending not to know. But the fact is that anyone who has followed it knows the relationships of the people who are promoting this deal. And I'm saying that
aren't we all related in some way? Don't we all have relationships? But does that prevent us from doing what is right?
Oh, really? So
I'm just asking.
Why did the president promise us that he will not run a friends and family government when he was in opposition? Why? Why did he tell us that his wife will not be giving contracts to people? Why? If it doesn't matter, why did he have to tell us that? So it does matter.
Okay.
So he can't change the script now. But I'm saying that those relationships are reflected even in the stories that they tell. Today, PDS is suspended. The next day, the minister misspoke. And the following day, PDS is working with ECG. It's obvious that you will not get the truth if you leave it in the hands of the government.
Thank you very much. Mr. Mensah, let's talk about the fact that they've gone to the U.S. Embassy. And he's explaining these are legitimate reasons, right?
Of course.
If we have external help and they can do a better job than we can.
We are in a democracy, and so nobody can stop the minority from escalating issues to wherever they deem appropriate. I gave you an instance where they said when the finance minister raised the 2.5 billion bond that there was some corrupt practices that were involved. And so to the extent that some of the investors had come from the United States, they petitioned the Securities and Exchange Commission of USA in Washington, D.C. 2 years down the line, they still haven't returned. I wonder whether they were using a canoe. Even that crab, by now, I'm sure they would have been back. So that's where we are.
So they can go ahead and petition.
Who can stop them?
Nothing will come out of it.
Who stopped them from going to the American Embassy? It's a public place.
But they've got legitimate reasons.
What are the legitimate reasons that they have? What legitimate reasons? This Millennium Compact 2 did not begin today. It started in 2014 when they were in government.
But we are talking about how it ended.
Where has it ended? They accused people who were related or who were involved in this transaction as being related to government. The illogical statements that they make. How can the government who has given the asset to its own people turn around to say I've suspended it?
And then turn around to say they are working together. That's how.
But you see,
that's how.
You see, look, I'm a lawyer, okay? So I'm cautious in the kinds of things that I see. That's why I went at my very good friend, John Peter, for the unfortunate statement that he made. Because there is no factual basis to support it.
How do you know that? He sits in that ministry.
I don't have a problem.
He sits on the board of directors of MIDA. He's exposed to a lot of things.
It's MIDA, not the MIDA itself, that he sits on the board, has issued a statement. Did they indicate in the statement that there was any fraud?
But these are independent institutions.
Hold on. They didn't say there was no fraud either.
Did MIDA say that there was fraud?
They supported the investigation. They didn't say there was no fraud either.
Because we have seen the correspondence from Alkut to ECG, ECG to Alkut, are good to Joe, Australia.
Okay, so when you say
So when
we
you
have
put,
seen the
you have
correspondence,
seen it as well.
where are
It's
you
all in the
coming
public
from?
domain.
They the PDS.
It's all in the public domain. Clearly, there is an issue that needs to be resolved with the insurance guarantee that was issued.
But you think that the sector minister is not in the position to say what he has seen and what that amounts to possibly?
You see, Mama B, all the things that we've seen, does it point to fraud? I don't know.
Potential.
Possible. I don't know. So I'm prepared to await the outcome of the investigation. After all, I believe we are already in the second week. Third week, fourth week will come. And if it is indeed the case that somebody has perpetrated a fraud on this country, appropriate action ought to be taken.
So, you know, Mr. Suhini gives the example of the Ameri deal.
You see?
And how it went back and forth, back and forth. I don't know. I want to be clear in my mind. Do we know how that was concluded in terms of the investigation?
You see, I'm not privy to that. But the mischief that our friends always want to spew out. And look, I know for a fact that there's a government policy to isolate the thermal assets of VRA, okay, and put it in private hands and leave VRA to focus on hydro. And so the Ameri deal had a tenure where the Ameri Middle East whatever company was managing the power plants and transfer it to VRA. Government then took a decision that, look, in furtherance of the policy to take away or as it were, isolate the thermal assets of VRA and give it to private hands. Let's use this Ameri as the first step to pursue that policy. Hence the conversation with Miscellaneous also that had some issue with the computation, leading to the exit of the energy minister at the time. You cannot say that anybody committed a wrong.
Okay, so but what happened with the investigation in terms of, so what's the report that was issued?
Look, I'm not so sure whether Philip Addison's committee went to investigate or went to renegotiate. I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure. We need to check.
I thought that when they first set off, it was to investigate.
No, that's why I said I'm not so sure because it's been a while and I honestly do not remember the details. Okay, but relative to this PDS matter, Mama V, where is the wrong that government has committed? Where is the wrong? The only decision that government took was for the benefit of Ghana. Rather than giving 80% to foreigners and 20% to Ghanaians, government said no, swift it around and make it a 51-49 transaction.
There's the issue of PDS not bringing forward the money itself. You've heard about that. That's been going around.
You see,
you know, now where is the money?
You see,
we have majority, but where is the money that we said we were going to? The reason we did this in the first place.
You see, it's interesting how that argument is playing out. I've heard people say that the Ghanaian 51% shareholders haven't paid for their shares.
Have they?
I don't know. Because I'm not a member of the company.
But you are a director.
I'm not a director.
What disclosure did you make on News File? Because there was this director.
Manner. Look, hold on. I will come to that. I'm not a director of PDS.
Oh, really?
Yes, I'm not.
So who are you then?
I incorporated a company called TG Energy in July 2014. And the shareholder asked me to be director secretary. That's it. But it suits them.
And
wait.
Hold on.
Mr. Mesa,
please.
What have you been doing since
Mr.
2014?
Mr. Sini,
Since
Mr. Mesa, so TG is part of the companies that make up PDS.
Absolutely, yes.
So are you still director,
yes, I'm
secretary
still
on the
TG Energy? Yes.
Okay.
So hold on.
Are you in the position to say if TG Energy has given its part in terms of the money? No, I'm not. I'm doing my job. He's absolutely not an influence.
I'm not in a position
to
say.
But I'm asking because you're secretary and director.
Hold on. I'm not in a position to say. But clearly, PDS is a separate entity. distinct from its shareholders.
Absolutely.
And so,
but TG Energy,
it's for the benefit of our listeners.
Yes,
so
I know. So what I'm doing,
but what has TG Energy been doing since he incorporated?
No, okay, that's your question. That's not my question. So we'll come. You can ask that. You'll ask that later. Okay. But my question is, from where you sit, at least TG Energy's contribution, has that been met?
I'm not in a position to say.
As director and secretary?
I said that I'm not in a position to say
as director and
whether
secretary.
TG Energy has met its obligations to the company.
As director and secretary?
Because, you see, you can say whatever you want.
Serious?
I mean, you and I, of course.
Okay, but you are going to go to the PDS in general.
Yeah, so if PDS as an entity has not received its equity contribution from its shareholders, there is a procedure for ensuring that its shareholders pay up for their equity.
Okay, so Mr. Mesa, first of all, you do not know.
Yes, I
There
don't.
are other people who say they haven't. So you are not in the position to dispute that.
I don't have a problem. I'm saying that the proper questions are not being asked.
What should we be asking?
Because you see, I'm saying that what I hear people to be saying that the Ghanaian equity owners haven't paid any money.
But you don't know if they have
Are you
or
a
they
member of the
haven't.
company?
But
PDS is a private limited liability company.
But Mr. Mesa, you are on the board of at least one of them.
There's no
but
issue.
you don't know. So
do I have to?
How do you then
I'm
disagree with the people who say they haven't?
No, I'm saying that the entity that ought to be asking those questions is PDS. And so if PDS, the shares that people picked, they haven't paid, PDS ought to initiate processes to get its shareholders to pay. Not third party.
Wait, so that's none of our business.
Like, but
so that's none of our business.
Are you a shareholder? Are you a member of PDS?
Really?
But if
are you
but if I am not a member of PDS and they haven't paid,
question is
a Ghanaian asset is involved, and you say we shouldn't get involved.
Please, let's allow him.
You don't even understand.
No,
I'm saying
forever. He's
I'm
taking
saying
forever.
that
I thought you will come to me to respond to some of these
the
things.
government of Ghana has an issue with PDS, by all means, let's deal with it.
Okay.
But going into the entity PDS and asking questions within when
it's none of our business.
Absolutely.
Mr. Sieni has a question for you. Please ask him.
You see, first of all,
you said what have they been doing since 2014? Oh, but I can give him because he's asking a question.
TG Energy. What have you been doing with that company since its incorporation?
That's privileged.
Okay.
Oh, really?
Yes.
I mean, it is registered as a company that is supposed to work.
It's a private company, isn't it?
But you see,
are you the registrar general?
No, but we need to know what it's been doing.
You need to know what?
As a
are you a member of the company?
Listen, I'm a shareholder of ECG.
So deal with PDS.
No, I'm a shareholder of
deal
ECG.
With PDS.
Please. I'm a shareholder of ECG.
That's what we are all dealing with.
Do you understand? Okay. And ECG is going to be handed over to a company.
You sit there
and you are telling me I have no reason to know
paid journalist
the capacity
of Larry Dobe or whoever
that's his response. Okay.
Tagging me as director of PDS and all that. I'm not a director of PDS. I'm not a shareholder of PDS. So they can say whatever you want.
Yes, Mr. Sweeney, please wrap up.
Well, he says what is important, and I need to highlight, is that he says he's not director of PDS.
Yes.
But he says that he is director and secretary of a company known as G Energy.
Absolutely.
Which is part of the consortium called PDS.
Yes.
But he is not aware, even though he's director, if TG Energy has paid its equity share.
Why should I make that information even if I know to you?
Please. He says he's not aware.
Okay, wait, Mr. Mesa, you said you're not aware.
Yes, I'm not aware.
You don't want to disclose.
No, I'm not aware. But I'm saying that even if I do, why do I have to disclose it?
I am just highlighting. I'm just highlighting.
TG Energy doesn't owe any obligation to you to disclose what their expedition is.
Okay, Mr. Mesa, please allow him.
I'm very comfortable.
And you know it. So let me proceed. I'm just highlighting. So he says even though he's director, he's not aware that they have paid their equity to, their share of equity to PDS. But he says, even though the PDS and TG Energy have been handed over a national asset that I have interest in, I should not
TG Energy been given any national asset?
Oh yes, ECG.
You see, ignorance that demonstrates on these matters.
Please let him land.
First of all,
you don't understand the nature of companies. Clearly, your utterances.
You see,
Mr. Mesa,
because you see,
you understand.
would who will
Mr.
meet
Mesa,
you.
let's allow him to land, and I can give you some 30 seconds to react.
He understands, yet he doesn't know. Or maybe he's unwilling to educate us because maybe that education that he gives will expose more. That is how I see it. But the point is that, look, all the things, the questions that he is saying we should be asking PDS or we should be asking ECG were conditions subsequent. They were supposed to pay their shares.
Look at that.
As at the time that they were taken over. So if they have taken over and have started receiving my revenue, because you see, almost every month
I pay our bills to them,
I pay my bills. And they have started receiving it. And they have actually been utilizing it. And yet they have not brought their share. And you think that
Well, we don't know that for sure.
Well, no. We know. If he knew, as director of TG Energy.
But he's not a director of PDS.
No, I'm saying, but if he knew, you see, if TG Energy had paid their contribution to PDS, they would have been angry if people suggested that PDS had not paid their share.
So based on that?
So it's simply put, he knows that they have not contributed
Mr. Mesa,
a dime, like everybody is saying.
Just because you are an interested party somewhat. 30 seconds. We have free SHS with 3 minutes to go.
You see, Mamavi, this matter is very simple.
Simple.
Government of Ghana has gone into a transaction with an entity called PDS. PDS is a legal entity that is separate and distinct from its shareholders.
True.
If PDS owes obligation to the government of Ghana, by all means, let's deal with it. But I'm saying that it is not for you to go into that entity and ask whether its shareholders have paid the shares when there's a legal procedure for that company to engage when its shareholders have not paid. In any event, TG Energy or any shareholder will not be receiving your revenue. It is PDS that will be receiving the revenue.
Okay, thank you very much.
It is only when they make a profit that some distribution of the profit would be made to the people who have made an investment in the entity.
All right.
So we want to know if they have made an investment to deserve profit.
Look,
thank you, Mr. Mesa.
You see, but
if they have made
when
their
a company is
contribution,
you see, companies
Mesa,
declare profit at the end of a financial
thankfully,
year.
this is still
So
still
have they
very much.
contributed to deserve a profit? Should it come up?
This is still very much a development
Even if we don't have a
so
profit
we will have the
yet, have they
opportunity
contributed to
to
deserve
talk
a
about the
profit?
other angles.
Don't talk
Mr.
about subject
Sweeney,
matters that you're not
Mr.
aware of.
Sweeney, we have our
You
last.
think so? You
this
think
is,
so?
Absolutely.
We are
Oh,
within
You
our
are
last
completely
minute.
ignorant of this
No,
matter.
no,
Wait,
I
wait.
see. You see.
Complete.
We
you
will
see-
talk free SHS.
No, you see, when I talk dishonest, he's angry. Then he says I'm ignorant on
Of
a
this
matter that he is demonstrating
of the
rather
company law
legendary
matter
dishonesty
that we are
again.
talking about.
Who
You are
says?
completely ignorant.
I mean,
We have to. We
you see,
have
so
to go.
for them,
We have to
for
go.
them,
Mr. Sweeney,
adjectives only
I'll
suit
give
the
you
opposition.
proper-
It
Mr.
does not
Sweeney,
suit them.
I beg you. What is the position of Mr. Mahama on free SHS?
Ignorance.
Mr. Sweeney, what's the position of Mr. Mahama on free SHS?
It is
He says
not-
he will not collapse it.
It is
What is his position?
You see, and that is why I think that in this country, it is important that we take our time in listening to each other and not just hearing each other.
Unbelievable.
We should be listening to each other. The NDC's position has remained consistent. Consistent to the extent that Mr. Mahama, even in 2012, at the IEA debate, made it clear that free SHS was nobody's brainchild. It is the brainchild of the framers of our constitution.
Okay, but we know that you guys had different position. Progressively free. This one says
I will
free
get
now.
there. I will get there, and I'll address the issues. That's what I'm saying, that it is important.
I have 1 minute to go.
Yes, but you see, I'm saying our position has remained consistent. So when in 2012 we won power, the president at that time insisted that we were going to implement the constitutional provision, but based on resources available, we're going to start a progressively free.
So should you come back?
And then made the assurance, please, and then made the assurance that by 2016, if we had come into power in 2017, and President Akufo-Addo, then in opposition, even commended President Mahama when he was in opposition for stating categorically that we had started a progressively free, and then by 2017 we're going to make it free for all. Look, the records are
So
there.
just quickly, because they're going to cut me.
And President
So
Akufo-Addo,
what would Mr. Mahama do in terms of continuing what exists today?
exactly.
Okay, all right.
And making sure that we make it better, because you see, we have the better solution. We have always had better solutions to the problems that they generate.
The next time we meet, I promise you, Mr. Mesa, I'll give you more time on education. Thank you very much for your time this morning.
Inherited a growing economy and ran it
Right.
down. Today are telling us they have better solutions.
Okay, so that's it for AM Talk. Thank you for your time.
Unbelievable.
You shock me sometimes with your pedestrian arguments.
When we started our fixed select one now.
You shock me with your pedestrian arguments.